All right, we're back with multiplying mixed numbers. So if you haven't watched the video from yesterday, which was on multiplying fractions, you should stop and do that now. Okay? If you have, then we're going to go ahead and move on. So we're multiplying mixed numbers. A mixed number is a number that's made up of a whole number and a fraction. So like yesterday, we're going to learn two ways to solve this problem. So we have 2 2/3 multiplied by 4 1/2. So method one is you can change these mixed numbers into improper fractions and then just multiply across using the shortcut from yesterday. So turning a mixed number into an improper fraction, you need to take the whole number and multiply it by the denominator. So 2 times 3 is 6. Then you need to add the numerator to get us to 8, and then the thirds stay the same. We're going to multiply that by 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 1 is 9 halves. Then we multiply across like yesterday, multiplying 8 times 9, which gives us 72, and 3 times 2, which is 6. Now, we had mixed numbers that were being multiplied together, so it'd be good to put this back into a mixed number. And 6 actually goes evenly into 72 12 times. So the answer here is 12. So that's method one, turning the mixed number into an improper fraction and then multiplying across like we learned yesterday. We can also use the rectangle method that you guys have learned with multiplication. But instead of putting our hundreds here and our tens here, we're going to put our whole number and then its fraction. And then on this side, we're going to put the whole number and then also its fraction. And then we're going to multiply 2 times 4, which is 8. And then 2 times a half, well, 2 halves is 1 whole. And this is where you're going to run into trouble if you didn't watch yesterday's video. Because we need to multiply 4 times 2/3, which is 8/3, which is the same as 2 2/3. Then you'll multiply 2/3 and you multiply times 1/2. This is where you multiply the numerator, which is 2 6. So now we add them all up together. We have 8 plus 1 plus 2 2/3 plus 2 6. Well, I know 2 6 is also equal to 1/3. And that's helpful because this will make 1 whole. So now we have 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 2 more brings us to 11, and then this is a 1 whole. So our answer here is 12, which is what we knew it would be from using our first method. Okay, so that's one example. Let's try one more example of multiplying mixed numbers. So our next problem, let's do 3 1/2. And we're multiplying it by 1 3/5. First method, turning these into an improper fraction. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have 7 halves. We're going to multiply that by 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8 fifths. Then we multiply across to get 56. 2 times 5 is 10. And then we can pull out 5 wholes because 10 goes into 55 times, and then we have 6/10 left over. That is equivalent to 5 3/5. We can now use our box method. We put our 3 1/2 and our 1 3/5. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times a half is 1/2. Now we're going to take 3, and remember, if you have a whole number and you're multiplying it by a fraction, you can write it as 3 over 1. So we have 3 times 3/5, you get 9/5. And then 1/2 times 3/5 is 3/10. So we have our 3. We're adding a half. We're adding 9/5, which we can go ahead and say 9/5 is also equivalent to 1 4/5. So 1 4/5, and we're going to add 3/10. Well, we're going to have to add fractions here with unlike denominators. We have a half, a fifth, and a tenth. So the common denominator here is 10. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 plus, turning this into tenths, is 5/10. There's our 1 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10. And then this is already as 3/10. So I've got my 3 and my 1. So far I have 4. And then 5/10 plus 8/10 gets us to 13/10. 13/10 plus 3 more tenths is 16/10. Well, I'm going to pull out a whole. So I now have 4 and plus 1 plus 6/10, which is 5 6/10, which we know is equivalent up here to 5 3/5. So the number one mistake that people make when they're multiplying mixed numbers is they just say, oh, 2 or 3 times 1 is 3, and 1/2 times 3/5 is 3/10. So if you did that, you'd have 3 times 1, you'd have this box, and you'd have 3/5 times 1/2, which would be this box. If you multiply using that strategy here, you totally don't get these two sections. You forget them altogether. So please do not, when you multiply mixed numbers, multiply the whole numbers and multiply the fractions, because you are missing these two parts of our box method. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and practice these next time I see you in class.